Hey everyone, welcome back. We're about to take another deep dive, like we always do. But this time, we're focusing on all you incredible makers and creators out there. If you're dreaming of turning that passion project into a real business, well, you're in the right place. We've been poring over the articles and notes you sent in, and let me tell you, we've got some serious gems to share.
Oh, absolutely. We've got a fantastic lineup of sources today. We're talking The Entrepreneur's Guide to Building a Successful Business, of course. Then we'll be digging into the business book. Oh, and even a little sneak peek into fundamentals of business, just to make sure we got all our bases covered, right?
I love it. Practical tips, big picture strategy, and a solid foundation. Sounds like a recipe for success to me.
Mhm.
And speaking of recipes, what's the first ingredient on our list today? Entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes, the entrepreneurial spirit. The business book makes a really interesting point about that. It's not just about taking risks.
Yeah.
It's about knowing how to manage those risks. It's so true. I feel like a lot of people think you're either born with entrepreneurial spirit or you're not. But the Entrepreneur's Guide actually tells this great story about a business owner. They were constantly comparing themselves to these like big shot entrepreneurs, feeling totally inadequate.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. But the point is, every business starts somewhere. You don't just magically become a success story overnight. It's a process. And the Entrepreneur's Guide actually highlights research and planning as those crucial first steps. What do you think?
I think that's spot on. It's so tempting to just dive in head first when you're excited about an idea. But honestly, think of research and planning, like laying the foundation for a house. It's got to be solid.
Yeah.
There are the safeguards. They help you make informed decisions, avoid those costly mistakes down the road.
Okay, so informed decisions. That brings us to market research. And here's the thing, folks. It's not about you, it's about them, your customers.
Exactly. Figure out what your ideal customer is looking for, what problems they need solved. The Entrepreneur's Guide has this fantastic list of questions to help you understand your customers' needs, wants, pain points, you name it. Like, what are their biggest frustrations? Think about it. What are those things that make them go, ugh, I wish there was a solution for this? And guess what? Maybe you are that solution.
The business book uses this great example of Snapple.
Yeah.
They noticed how the market was saturated with these like super sugary drinks. And they were like, hey, there's a gap here for something healthy and delicious. Boom, Snapple. So ask yourself, is there an unoccupied market territory in your niche? Could you be the Snapple of, I don't know, handmade ceramics or artisanal chocolates?
Ooh, I like that. The Snapple of anything. It's about finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the entrepreneurial spirit. We're doing our research. Now what? We need to turn those ideas into action, and that's where a solid business plan comes in. I know planning can feel a little daunting sometimes, but trust me, it's worth it.
Oh, absolutely. The Entrepreneur's Guide throws out this statistic that might sound a little scary at first. Ready for it? 75% of business ideas fail, on paper.
Wow, 75%.
But here's the silver lining. The business book is really good at emphasizing this. A solid business plan, it's like a dress rehearsal for the real world, right?
Yeah.
It helps you anticipate problems before they actually happen, and you can iron out the kinks in a safe space.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Better to catch those issues now than when you're, knee-deep in inventory and orders. And when we talk about business plans, we've got to talk about finances, specifically pricing. I think we can all agree this is one of the toughest things for makers and creators. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to undervalue your time, your skills.
Especially in the cottage industry world.
The Entrepreneur's Guide really nails this. They talk about how common it is for us to price our products based on what we think people will pay rather than what we actually need to earn to, keep the lights on. And fundamentals of business actually helps us understand why that happens.
It all boils down to this. A lot of people confuse revenue with profit. You might be bringing in a decent amount of money, right? But are you factoring in all your costs? I'm talking materials, your time, even those little things, packaging, marketing.
Okay, so how do we make sure we're pricing for profit, not just covering expenses? That's the million-dollar question.
Well, this is where fundamentals of business really comes in handy. They bring it down into gross profit and net income. Gross profit, that's what you have left after you pay for it, like the direct costs of making your product, materials, the time you spent actually making it.
Right, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. But then there's net income, and that's your real profit. It's what's left over after you pay all the expenses, rent, marketing, all that jazz.
Ah, So it's not just about how much you're selling, it's about how much you're actually keeping after everything's paid for. Got it. Okay, so we're making a profit, things are running smoothly. Now, how do we grow without losing that handmade charm? The business book talks about something called Ansough's Matrix. Ever heard of it?
Ansough's matrix. Yeah, it's like a roadmap for growth. Think of it this way. Imagine your business is like a garden. Okay. Ansough's matrix, it helps you figure out how you want to grow that garden. You could stick with your current products and customers, just try to sell more of what you've already got. That's like, tending to the plants that are already growing.
Keeping things cozy, I get it.
Right. Or you could try finding new customers for those same products. That's like planting those same seeds in a whole new patch of soil, right?
Yeah.
Expanding your reach.
Okay, so that's option 2, finding new people for our existing stuff. What's next?
Well, option 3 would be developing new products for your existing customers, like adding new types of plants to that garden of yours.
Ah, I see where you're going with this analogy.
Right.
So more of the same stuff to new people, or new stuff to the same people. What's the fourth option? There's got to be one more.
Oh, there is, and it's the most adventurous one. It's called diversification. It's like creating a whole new garden in a completely new location. You're developing new products for entirely new markets.
Ooh, that sounds both exciting and kind of terrifying. Like a lot of unknowns.
It can be, but that's the beauty of Ansough's matrix. It lays it all out there, helps you visualize those risks and either rewards so you can figure out, okay, what growth strategy really makes sense for where I'm at right now.
Right. Maybe you're that soap maker who's ready to hit the craft fair circuit. That's market development.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe you're a jewelry maker who decides, hey, let's add some home decor items to the mix.
Yeah,
Product development. It's all about finding the right path for your business, right? What do you think?
absolutely. And sometimes the best way to grow is wait for it to collaborate. I know, right? The Entrepreneur's Guide calls it cooperative networking, and it's this whole idea that you can actually work with your competitors.
Work with the competition. Come on. Isn't the whole point to, beat them?
Not always. Think of it like athletes who train together. They're still competing against each other, but they're also pushing each other to get better. The business book has this wild example. They talk about Toyota, Peugeot, and Citroën. Big car companies, right? And they all collaborated on a car. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But how does that work for, someone running a small cottage industry?
Well, think smaller scale. Maybe you team up with another candle maker and do a pop-up shop together. Or you swap marketing tips with a fellow potter. You're still running your own show, but you're also supporting each other. It's a win-win. And that whole idea of support, that brings us to fundamentals of business and the value of having a founding team. They talk about how a team can provide, extra hands, obviously, but also fresh perspectives and that emotional support, which, let's be honest, can be a lifesaver when you're running your own business.
Oh, tell me about it. It can be a roller coaster. Celebrating the wins together and, picking each other up when things get tough.
Exactly. Even if you're not ready for a full-blown business partner, finding your community, other makers who get it, can make all the difference. Share experiences, tips, support each other. And while we're talking about support, let's not forget about the most important asset in your business, you. The Entrepreneur's Guide found that a whopping 87% of successful entrepreneurs, they say employee training is crucial.
Wow, 87%. That's huge. But I know so many entrepreneurs who complain about not having time for training. It's like, this is never enough hours in the day.
I hear you. But Fundamentals of Business has this great suggestion. They say shift your mindset. Instead of seeing training as another task, another thing on your to-do list, think of it as an investment in yourself, in your business.
Okay, I like that, investing in myself.
Yeah.
So what does that actually look like for someone, running a cottage industry? Maybe they're the only employee.
It could be anything, really. Maybe you take an online course to learn about, product photography, or you attend a workshop on social media marketing. Heck, even just setting aside some time each week to read industry blogs, stay up to date on trends, that counts.
It's about always learning, always growing, both as a creative person and as a business owner.
Right.
But you know what? We've been talking about all the positive stuff, the exciting parts of entrepreneurship. But the business book actually dedicates a whole section to something that might feel a little uncomfortable. Learning from failure. Learning from failure. Isn't that a bit counterintuitive? Shouldn't we be focusing on success?
We all want to be successful, of course. But the business book makes a really valid point. Failure, it's inevitable. Especially when you're trying new things, pushing those boundaries. The key is it's not about celebrating failure. It's about seeing those moments as opportunities to learn.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually turn those failures into, something positive?
Well, the business book suggests taking a step back when something goes wrong. Really analyze it. Don't just brush it under the rug. Like, why did this happen? And what can I do differently next time? It's like turning those oops moments into, like, data points.
It's like that Thomas Edison quote, right? I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways it won't work.
Exactly. It's all about learning and adapting. And remember, the business world, it's constantly changing, right? What worked yesterday might not work today. The Entrepreneur's Guide, they really hit on this. Staying flexible, adapting to those changes, it's crucial.
So it's about being aware of those big shifts, like technology, even something like a global pandemic, but also the smaller day-to-day things that might mean we need to, adjust our course a little bit.
Right. And that's where listening to your customers, it becomes so valuable. Their feedback, it's gold. The Entrepreneur's Guide also suggests having a network of mentors or advisors, people who can give you that outside perspective, help you see things you might be missing.
Okay, so we're learning from our mistakes, staying flexible, and keeping our ears open. What else can we do to set ourselves up for success?
Branding. The business book has this fantastic quote. It says, "Products are made in the factory, but brands are created in the mind." Think about the brands you love, right? It's not just about the product, it's about the whole feeling you get.
The story they tell, the values, the whole experience.
Exactly. And the business book stresses that differentiation. What makes your product or service unique? That special something that sets you apart.
So we need to figure out our unique selling proposition and then shout it from the rooftops.
Well, not just shout it, but communicate it clearly, weave it into everything you do. Your website, your packaging, how you talk to customers on social media.
The Entrepreneur's Guide talks about consistency, making sure our brand feels cohesive across all platforms, building that trust with customers. They know what to expect, and they become those loyal fans, those repeat buyers.
Speaking of reaching those customers, let's talk about advertising. Now, the business book reminds us, advertising, it's an investment, not an expense. It's about building those long-term relationships with your people.
So it's not just about blasting out those promotional messages. It's more about crafting a story that really connects with your customers on an emotional level, right?
Exactly. The business book actually highlights this ad legend, David Ogilvy. He was all about the power of storytelling in advertising. Capturing attention, sparking curiosity, and leaving a lasting impression.
Ooh, I love that. So instead of just saying, buy my product, we're inviting them into a world, creating an experience.
Right. Don't be afraid to get creative. Maybe it's a quirky illustration or a catchy tagline or even a video that tells a heartwarming story about your brand.
And the business book also mentions, we need to test and measure our advertising efforts. Track that data, figure out what's working, and be willing to adapt our strategy if we need to.
Absolutely. Don't just throw money at ads and hope for the best. Now, we can't talk about reaching customers without talking about the internet. It's a game changer.
It's like having a shop that's open 24/7, reaching a global audience.
Right. The business book talks about how platforms like Amazon, Etsy, they've empowered so many small businesses. And social media, it's become essential for building community, sharing your story, connecting with those customers in a personal way.
It feels like there are endless possibilities online. But it can also be overwhelming to know where to start, right?
The business book suggests just focus on where your target audience hangs out. You don't have to be on every platform. Choose the ones that make sense for your business and really invest your energy there.
In social media, it's about relationships, not just blasting out promotional stuff all the time.
Engage with your followers, respond to those comments, ask questions, share behind-the-scenes stuff. Let your personality shine through. Make it personal and authentic.
And remember, so many people are shopping on their phones these days. So make sure your website is mobile-friendly, easy to use on those smaller screens.
Oh, and the Entrepreneur's Guide also reminds us about email marketing. Building that email list, it's such a great way to stay connected with your customers, share special offers, announce new products.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about behind-the-scenes stuff. The operations side of running a cottage industry. The business book puts a lot of emphasis on efficiency. It's not just about working hard, it's about working smart.
And one way to work smarter is to eliminate waste. The business book talks about lean production. It's this philosophy that's all about identifying and eliminating any activities that don't actually add value for the customer.
So streamlining our processes, reducing errors, making sure that every step we take is actually moving us towards our goals, right?
Exactly. And the business book uses this great example, the Toyota production system.
Hmm.
TPS, Toyota, they're all about eliminating waste. They even have a word for it, muda.
Muda. I love that. It's like this little monster that's eating up our time and resources.
And there are different types of muda, like muri, which is overburden, pushing yourself too hard.
Yeah.
And then there's mura, which is unevenness, like inconsistency in your processes. And then, of course, there's just plain muda, which is any activity that doesn't directly contribute to creating value for the customer.
So like if we're taking on too many projects at once, or if our production process isn't consistent, or we're spending hours on paperwork that could be automated, we're creating muda, right?
You got it. And the business book highlights this key principle of lean production, the just-in-time, or JIT system. Producing goods only when they're needed, minimizing those inventory costs, and reducing waste.
This feels like it could be huge for cottage industries, especially when we're often working with limited space and resources.
It can be a game changer. Now let's switch gears again and talk about quality. The business book is really clear on this. Quality isn't just about meeting expectations, it's about exceeding them.
And that's where we, as makers, we really get to shine, right? It's about taking pride in our craft, using those top-notch materials, paying attention to every single detail.
Absolutely. And the business book shares this inspiring story about Estee Lauder. She started out small, right? Making her own skincare products in her kitchen. But she was obsessed with quality, only the finest ingredients. And that commitment, it helped build her global brand.
So quality is about the product itself, but the business book also talks about the whole customer experience. It's about prompt and friendly service, nice packaging, those little touches that make people feel valued.
Totally. Those little things can make a big difference. It's turning a transaction into a relationship, building that loyalty. The business book even mentions this concept of value added, those unexpected delights that make a customer go, wow.
Like a free gift with their purchase or a handwritten thank you note?
Exactly. What can you offer that makes your customers' lives easier, more enjoyable, or more fulfilling? Go above and beyond.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. Entrepreneurial spirit, branding, operations, so much good stuff. What's the one big takeaway? What should our listeners walk away with?
The business book really suggests that the future of business is all about specialization, finding that niche, becoming an expert, and really focusing on what you do best.
It's quality over quantity, right? Selling less of more.
Exactly. So as you're building your cottage industry, think about what makes you special. What are you passionate about? What unique skills do you bring? Don't try to be everything to everyone. Find your tribe. Build a business that reflects you.
And remember, this entrepreneurial journey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs. Stay curious, stay adaptable, never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Embrace those challenges, celebrate those victories, and never lose sight of that passion that got you started in the first place.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of cottage industry success. Remember, you've got this.
Go out there and create something amazing.
And until next time, keep diving deep and keep creating.